This is Janna Gajjar, Assistant Professor at ICT Department of LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Welcome to the third lecture of Unit 3. In previous lecture, we have learned about project management concept. Okay, so till today's lecture, we have completed W5HH principle, 4 P's of project management and a project management concept. In project management concept, we have learned about what are the characteristics, what are the tasks set for project planning, and what are the reasons about a project failure. Okay, so we have already discussed about the reason for project failure and approaches to avoid the project failure. Okay, now in today's lecture we will continue with the software matrices. Okay, but before move to the actual software matrix, we need to know about various terminology that we are using in our software matrix. So in software matrix, process, product and project matrices are there. So let's discuss a basic terminology in our matrices. Okay, so first is about a measure. So measure is, it provides a quantitative indication of the extent, means range, amount, dimension, capacity or size of some attribute of a product or any process. Okay, so in measure you are measuring about a software product. Okay, so in your process or in your product you are measuring its range, its amount, its dimension, its capacity, etc. Okay, for an example, the number of uncovered error. Okay, so how many number of errors are in your project? That can be your measures. Okay, then next definition is about matrix. So we have discussed about the software matrix, but what is matrix? That we have not discussed yet. So matrix is it is a quantitative measure of the degree, means a limit to which a system component or processes a given attribute. Okay, so if you have done with your requirement gathering and all your tasks set, now in matrix means you are measuring something. Okay, so measuring in terms of in quantitative measure of the degree to which a system component or process possesses, means obtain a given attribute. So it relates individual measure in some way. Okay, so matrix is a typical process or any component for some attribute. Okay, for an example, number of error found per review. Okay, so if you are identify a number of errors in total measure, but in matrix it is a part of measure. Okay, so per page you are defining what kind of errors are occurred. Okay, in measure you are uncovered total error, but in matrix you are finding a number of error found per review. Okay, then next is a fault. Fault are like two types, error and defect. Okay, so fault found by the practitioner during the software development. Okay, so if you are a developer and you are finding some error in your product, then it is known as a error. Okay, so that particular fault is error. But if your fault is identified by the end user, by the customer after release it, then it leads to the defect. Okay, so faults are like two types, error and defect. If as a project manager or as a practitioner you identify the fault, then it is a error. But after releasing your software, if customer identify that fault, then it is a defect. Okay, so this is about a fault. Then next terminology is direct matrix and indirect matrix. Okay, so direct matrix means immediately measurable attributes. So what are the immediate measurable attributes in your software product? That is a direct matrix. For an example, line of code, that means LOC, then execution speed. So what is the actual execution speed of your project? Okay, then defect reported. So how many defects are reported per review or per product? Okay, so that will measure in a direct matrix. Then indirect matrix. Indirect matrix means it aspect that are not immediately quantifiable. Okay, that means functionality, quantity, reliability. Okay, so direct metrics involved in a software development. Okay, so during software development you are identify the direct metrics, but after releasing of that particular product you can measure indirect matrices. Okay, so indirect metrics aspect that are not immediate quantifiable. Okay, so for an example, functionality. So what are the functionality you are developing? Okay, then quantity, in which quantity? Then reliability, what are the reliable solution for that particular product? So this will measure in an indirect metric. Then next definition is indicator. Indicator means it is a metric or a combination of metrics. Okay, so you can either use any of the metric or you can use a multiple metrics into a single. That means a combination, means hybrid. So it is a metric or a combination of metrics that provide insight into the software process, project and product itself. Okay, so you have done with the requirement gathering from customer, you have done a feasibility analysis, then you are dividing, means decompose your project into multiple tasks, you have already done with the cost estimation. Okay, now you have to manage it in the inside view, means you have to manage the process, project and product itself. So indicator means it is a metric or a combination of metric that provide an insight into the software process, project or the product itself. Okay, it also enables the project management manager or software engineer to adjust the process, the project or the product to make the things better. Okay, so as a project manager or as a software engineer you have to adjust it. Okay, so if your project manager have some another methodology and you have some other methodology, so there is a conflict. So you have to be so sure about what methodology you are using for any software project development. Okay, so you are adjusting the processes, you are adjusting the project itself, and you are also adjusting about the product to make a things a better thing. Okay, so if you are analyzing all the things, if you are managing all the things in a good way, then your software should be greater success. For an example, product size means it's analyzing and specification matrix. Okay, so what is your actual product size that you are analyzing and specifying? Okay, so project size is an indicator of increasing coding, integration and testing effort. Okay, so if your product size is defined, then you have to indicate that what is the total overall costing, what increase in your coding, maintenance and testing. Okay, so if you have a small code, then time required for analyzing that code, run that code and maintain that code is very easy. But if you have a huge module and you have to check in each and every model, okay, and you have to check in each and every platform, then it leads to the larger time required. Okay, so indicator means you are indicating something based on your project, process and product itself. Okay, so for an example, if you are developing any software and you have dividing all the activities into number of modules, then you can easily identify what are the process, how your project is done and what product is finalized. Okay, so based on your task set you are dividing all the things. Okay, so if your task is greater, then it also increase the coding, integration and maintenance and testing itself. Okay, so this is about the indicator. Now next is about why measure software. Okay, unit 3 is about a managing software project. Okay, so here why we need to measure any software? As we already have a requirement, then we can easily manage a software into a particular task list. Okay, then you can easily plan your software. Then why is the need of measure your software? So a main reason, that is you have to determine quality of a product or process. Okay, so if you are measuring your software, means if you are measuring a quality of your product or process, then your software should be a greater success. Then to predict qualities of a product or process. Okay, so you can easily predict that if this kind of activity is there, then definitely this leads to this activity. Okay, so you can easily predict the quality and to improve quality of a product or process. Okay, so why we use software measures? We are using software measures to determine quality, to predict quality, and to improve quality. Okay, so if you are using the same terminology or same methodology in your software development since the last 10 years, then your software should not get a greater success. Okay, so software measures are very important, so it plays a vital role in your software product development. Okay, so by analyzing means by measuring your software, you are either able to determine the quality of your software. Then based on that determination, you can predict that if I am doing this, then this will affect on this particular module. Okay, and based on this you can analyze risk also. So based on that risk you can improve the quality. Okay, so if your software measure is not done, then you lead to the project failure. So this is the reason why we are measuring our software. Now matrix classification base. So based on some categories, we are classified a matrix classes. Okay, so we are classified each and every software measures into process, project, and product. Okay, so process is used to improve the development process. Okay, so you are using process for improving your process activity. Okay, so if you are following some previous activity in the next project, then it will definitely not going to work. As we have discussed in our very first lecture about introduction to software engineering, if you are going to build any wall, if you are going to construct any wall, it is a easy task. But if you are constructing a huge building like a multi-purpose building, about 50 to 60 floor building, then your same concept or same process of building the same wall, that will not work. Okay, so here process matrix is used to develop for improvement. Okay, so improvement in your software process. So process specify activities related to the production of a software. Okay, so which kind of activities are going to take place during your software product development, that will specify in a process matrix. Then it's also specify the abstract set of activities that should be performed to go from user need to the final product. Okay, so you can easily able to specify that what are the abstract set of activity. Means these are the customer requirement, and if this requirement goes to the final product, these will be your final product. Okay, so it process also specify the abstract set of activity. Next is a project matrix. So it describes the project characteristics and execution. So project matrix is a software development work in which a software process is used. Okay, so in your software product development, which process you are using, that will mention for a project matrix. So software development work in which a software process is used, that you have defined in a project matrix. And the actual act of executing the activity for some specific user need. Okay, so what kind of activity user actually need, means what type of requirement user need and what activity leads to that particular requirement, that you have to mention in a project matrix. Okay, so it will define a characteristics and execution of that particular project. Okay, and the next matrix is a product matrix. So product matrix is also define the characteristics of the product. So what is the outcome of your software project and what are the output, that will based on the outcome of your input. Okay, so once your activity is being executed, some output will definitely occur. So all the output that are produced while the activities are being executed, that will define in a product matrix. It also leads to the size of the project, then complexity. So means what are the complexity of your project, then what are some design features, then what is the actual quality, then reliability, then performances. Okay, so in product you are measuring all these things. Similarly in project You are defining number of team members, means your staff, scheduling, productivity, quality. Okay, so you are defining these things in a project matrix. Okay, so who is your staff, how much you have to pay to that particular staff, that will define in a project matrix. And in process matrix, you are identifying what kind of efforts you need to develop any particular software product, then what amount of time you require to develop any of the product, then number of errors, tools and technology, then efficiency. All these things are measured during the process matrix. Okay, so this is about why we need software measure and what are the classification of that software measure. Okay, so this is all for the today's lecture. In today's lecture, we have discussed about various terminology starting from what is measure. So measure provide a quantitative indication of the extent, amount, dimension, capacity. Then matrix means you are defining each and every activity, means number of error you can find in a particular review. Okay, so you can identify what kind of issues are there in a particular module. Then fault, so what is fault, in which we have dividing error and defect. Error means if fault is identified the programmer itself, then it should lead a error, and if fault found after delivery, means customer is identified that fault, then it is a defect. Then next is direct and indirect matrices, and then indicator. And we have also discussed about why measure software. So this is all about the today's lecture. From next lecture we will continue with the different process, project and product matrices. Okay, so from next lecture we will define how to calculate cost, how to calculate the line of code for your particular project, and so on. So that's all for the today's lecture. Thank you.